My name is Arlie Hagan. I'm 16 years old. I go to Booker T. Washington High School for the Performing and Visual Arts. And I'm a part of the THLN Junior Advocates Program, as you heard. So basically, the program is what Ms. Babowski was saying, is that we take middle schoolers, high schools like myself, train them on what we know. And over the past, I've been with the program for a while. I'm actually kind of about to graduate it. And I've learned a lot throughout my years in the program. It's meant a lot for me, a lot of time towards it. It's been great. I've met a lot of representatives, including my own, throughout the state. I learned the importance in the process of how a law gets processed and passed, and the issues that our organization fights, such as dog fighting, overpopulation, puppy mills. And I think one of the most important things about this is I've really learned on how to never give up. As you know, for a while we focused on passing the Safe Outdoor Dogs Act, and year after year we were rejected. One year we got very far and we were close enough to getting it passed, and then the governor himself vetoed it. But then years we fought back and we got it passed. So I think that was one of the really important things I learned about never ever giving up. And it's helped me not just in this, but in school too, sports, just in life in general. So I really want to thank this organization for all the work they've done and how they've helped me become a better person than I am today. And quickly, I just want to say March 25th is our lobbying day. If you know any middle schoolers or high schoolers who want to get some stuff on their resume, tell them to come out. Contact THLN. It's free and it works out great. So thank you. I'm going to hand it back to Mrs. Babowski.
Teenagers, they look up from their video games and can talk once in a while. Awesome. Okay, just kidding. Thank you, Zarly. So, my name is Shelby Babowski. It's so good to see some familiar faces today. I was a practicing attorney and really got involved in animal welfare when I realized that when you can pass a law, it can effectuate change for thousands of animals just through the passage of one law in perpetuity, forever. And I was realizing that we could not rescue our way out of this crisis. And although we've been here for 50 years, we celebrate 50 years, we've passed a lot of good, solid laws that are working, but at the same time, we really have a long way to go. I do wanna just recognize two people that are here. Randy Turner, if you can wave your arm. Randy is in the back of the room. He is an animal law attorney. He's been practicing 35 years doing animal law. He's a wealth of knowledge. He also teaches, he's an adjunct professor. He has done everything. If you are a rescuer or have a rescue, you've probably worked with him. So please welcome him, as well as our board president, Steve Hurst, is here as well. So Steve is in the back of the room as well. We also have another board member on our C3 side, Pam. So we'll all be here afterwards if you guys have any questions and you want to talk further about this. So THLN's mission is to promote the humane treatment of animals through legislation, education, and advocacy. And we have been the mainstream voice for, like I said, 50 years. A lot of people say, oh, you know, are you HSUS, are you PETA? Absolutely not. We are by Texans for Texans, and we do what's good for Texas. Because sometimes national agendas don't really fit with what we have going on in Texas, especially with the overpopulation crisis. So partnerships are key. We love going to these kinds of events, and I'll tell you really quickly, and I think this is important, from today's perspective, I've been asked to speak as a guest, and I'm gonna give you the bills, and I'm just gonna give you the facts. Because I know that some of us feel certain ways, we support something, we don't support something, this is just the facts. And that's what I do in my law school classes. Again, volunteers are key, and so if you're interested, we're so excited to see you. I really want to point out a law that is working. As our young junior advocate talked about, the Safe Outdoor Dogs Act, it took us 6-7 years to pass, And now that it has passed, I will tell you that when Storm Uri came through in 2021 in February, we had over 700 calls to our hotline. We had so many emails. Randy, Steve, myself, Pam, we could not keep up because we were trying to save dogs that were outside. And what was happening is law enforcement was calling us saying, what do we do? Because we have a law that isn't working. This time around, when we've had these cold freezes, we've had maybe 5 or 6 calls. So it truly is working. And so basically, you can have a dog outside 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But if you're gonna do that, you have to provide proper shelter, proper tether, you can no longer chain a dog, and also food and water. So very proud of that. And I'd like to say Representative Jared Patterson, who is one of the representatives in Frisco, passed this law. So when you see him, thank him, because as Zarly said, the governor vetoed it, but we were able to bring it back during a special session and pass it. And that never happens, so that was exciting. We also have a C3, and with our C3, this is the nonprofit that we created in 2020. So what we like to say is the C4 passes the laws and the C3 educates on the laws. So we have a 3rd grade curriculum, we have humane libraries, we also have adult humane education, which is what I would call this. We also work on model ordinances, and then we train law enforcement throughout the state. I'd like to say that, if you come across someone in law enforcement and they might be confused on one of our laws, it is not their fault. They have 0 training in animal cruelty when they leave the academy. 0, it's not required. So we try to go out and really educate them on what is animal cruelty, what does dogfighting look like, all that. So we're very proud of that. Okay, so in Texas, what kind of animal issues are we all facing? Frisco is very lovely. You guys are very lucky up here. I've never been in such a nice library. I mean, I wish I could transport this back to Dallas. It's really nice up here, and you guys treat your animals very well. The state of Texas is huge, and a lot of our rural areas are definitely suffering. We have stray and loose animals. We also have a lack of spay-neuter funding. We have a veterinarian shortage right now. It is national and it is widespread. There are 50 counties in the state of Texas that have no veterinarian. So we really, and everything is exacerbated, in Texas because it's bigger, right? So we have more of an overpopulation problem. We also have a larger vet shortage and so forth. Rabies is coming back, which is kind of concerning in several of our counties now. They've detected rabies. We have dog bites, we have epizoonotic diseases. Animals, unfortunately, are staying longer in shelters since COVID. And we can all agree to disagree on why that is, but we're trying to get our animals out quicker. And then we also have competing policy ideas. We're not really gonna get into it today, but a lot of people hear the phrase, well, I'm sure we have an amazing shelter manager here today from the Colony, Mark Cooper, and I'm sure sometimes people call up and say, well, I'm only gonna bring my dog in if it's no kill. And that really is confusing, it's a myth, and so sometimes these policy ideas really can get people not understanding the true value and what we're trying to do to help our animals. So why do we need to pass animal laws? So number one, it legitimizes animal welfare issues, and it also updates the progression on how we treat animals in our communities. So when we originally passed the animal cruelty law, Randy Turner was the president of the board at THLN at the time. It was in 1997, and it was at the time that it passed and the time that we originally went ahead and started to upgrade it, there was a dog named Loco, and Loco had his eyes removed, gouged out, a horrible animal cruelty case, and at the time it was only a misdemeanor. So Loco was really the face of legitimizing animal cruelty and why we needed to go from a misdemeanor to a state jail felony. But also in 2013, our organization helped shut down the use of gas chamber euthanasia. And so many cities had already gone to euthanasia by injection, which if anybody has ever had to put an animal down, a pet, it is a very peaceful way compared to gas, and gas was still being used in 50 counties. And so when we went to those cities and we said, why are you still using it? They said, pass a law and we'll stop. So again, it's that legitimization of animal issues. And then, like I said, through the passage of one animal law, we can effectuate change for thousands and thousands of animals, which is great. So we're gonna look at 2023. This is the legislative session. We are unlike many other states. I think we're only one of 3 states that do it this way. We meet every other year. So we convene in odd numbers of years, and we basically have 6 months to pass a bill. So imagine it this way, okay? You have this huge kind of tornado and bills are coming in, and at the very, very bottom, that is where your bills pass out of. So 3 out of 4 bills don't pass every session. In 2023, 8,000 bills were filed and only 1,242 passed. And actually, 76 were vetoed, including 1 animal bill. And we follow approximately 200 bills per session. So we use our amazing animal law attorneys that are on our board. We go over the laws and we decide if this is something that we want to oppose, support, or stay neutral. So that's just a snapshot of the 2023 legislative session. Where are the animal laws located? So again, we followed many animal bills in 2023, but they're usually in Texas Health and Safety Code, and that's the code that usually follows and regulates shelters, but also the Texas Penal Code. So that's where you're gonna find your animal cruelty law, your dog fighting, your cockfighting, those types of laws are there. And then there are several statutes that are authorized through DSHS, and those rules are then located and codified in the Texas Administrative Code. So that's typically where you can find the laws. So if anybody's curious, kind of this is a great snapshot of last session and what was brought and what didn't pass. So couple ones that passed, and these are important. You also have a state representative. His name is Matt Shaheen, and he was the author of the first bill that passed, and it's now a law. So if you're convicted of certain types of animal cruelty, then you cannot be around an animal for 5 years. And this was one of the bills that we felt really strongly about because you are able to interrupt that cycle of violence if you are not allowing violent animal abusers to be around animals. So that's something, so if you call him after this and reach out to him, which is gonna be one of our action items for you all if you're so inclined, please thank him for passing that. And really what motivated him, and if you talk to him, was Uvalde. Because we know with, I see Doreen's here. I haven't seen you all, so good to see you. Okay, sorry. Yes, sorry. I just, it's so good. I get to see my friends too. So the thing about Matt and what got him involved was the Uvalde mass shooting. We know that he was torturing cats online, and what was so unbelievable when everybody kind of did a deep dive on Uvalde and after it happened, there were so many high school students that knew that he was torturing cats horrifically, and not one person reported it. You cannot be mad at law enforcement because they didn't know. But then you go to the town and you find out that even the adults knew that he was abusing horrifically these cats, and nobody said anything. So again, if you see something, say something. If you can be one of our junior advocates like Zarly, we can go ahead and interrupt that cycle of violence. Also, we made updates to the Texas dog or cat license breeder law. So before it was 11 breeding females and you had to sell 20 puppies a year in order to be considered a licensed breeder under Texas law. 11 breeding females. Think of how many dogs and offspring that is. So a lot of people would have 10, or they'd have more than 11, but they would say, well, I'm not selling 20 puppies a year, I'm just giving them away. So it was really easy to evade. So we went from 11 breeding females to 5, and then we also removed that sales requirement. So you're just bringing more breeders in. And actually a lot of the breeders appreciate this law because they get to use their license, they get to sell them for more money, and they can say, hey, I've been inspected by the state, or the state came, 2 weeks ago and went to my home, inspected it, and said I was doing a good job with my dogs. So that was a really good one. Also, we are one of the few states that actually have a licensed breeding law. And we'll get to some of the other stuff about puppy mills in the future. So rural vet incentives. So again, we have this vet shortage. And so what the rural vet incentives did is if you go and work in very rural areas for 5 years, it helps you pay off some of your veterinarian debt, which is a lot for school. Now, also in 2023, there were 18 cities that passed humane pet store ordinances that said you could no longer sell puppies in pet stores. But what happened is 21, 27 came down, and that really hamstringed what localities could do. And the retail pet stores were swept up in it. So I think someone just contacted us a week ago and said there's a new pet store in Mansfield. We didn't know about it, we don't want it here, what do we do? Well, you can't do anything now because of 21, 27. So the only way to stop that is through helping with the ethical pet sales bill. Okay, government housing authorities are required to comply with dangerous dog restrictions. That was just kind of a pickup bill. There are a lot of right to farm laws that passed. So last year, the right to farm became a constitutional right in the Texas Constitution. So this is interesting because the point of it was to allow our farmers to have the freedom that they need. But in some areas now, I feel really bad for local animal control. And I don't know if Mark is having this problem in the colony or other areas, but in my area, like there are chickens that escape. We had goats running down my street, like not my street, but sorry, 2 streets over a couple weeks ago. And locally, if you have the right to farm, are your ordinances still valid? It's causing a huge problem. So I think they might go back and tweak this to a certain extent, but at the end of the day, it was really causing confusion because obviously we want to give that freedom to some farmers, but at the end of the day, not everybody is a good urban farmer. I know that one of the state representatives, his neighbor got a rooster. And if anybody has ever lived next to a rooster, you know what a huge, huge issue that is. So we'll see what happens there. There was a bill that was just recently brought this session, and if you have any questions about it, I know Randy can answer. If a groomer or boarder negligently commits animal cruelty, then they could be subject to the animal cruelty law. So under Texas law right now, if you are a boarder or you are a groomer, the only amount of damages you can get is out of pocket. So if you got your dog for free and the groomer left the gate open and your dog was hit by a car, you have no recourse at all. And there were some really horrific incidents, especially some trainers this summer that were leaving dogs in cars during the summer heat and they died. And so we're trying to give a voice to these individuals that understand that this is really a problem. Also a good thing to know, and Randy, you will correct me if I'm wrong, rover.com, like I know you guys are like, okay, I'm gonna find a care consultant through that. Understand that they do no background checks on their boarders. And so that's really important. There was a horrific case out of Houston this summer where a woman really had vetted a lot of places and she went with this one boarder because he or she had gotten great reviews on rover.com, and she was told that her dog was the only one there. Well, 2 days later she found out her dog died and it was in a shed with like several other dogs that had passed because the air conditioning went out in the shed. But so you just gotta be careful, right? And we've all gotta research. So just know that that's really important about rover.com. Dogs, there's always a bill that's brought that says dogs are not allowed in the back of pickup trucks, and this really becomes an urban versus rural fight because that is a way of life in rural Texas, is of course you have your dog in the back of a pickup truck, but that sometimes is brought every session. This is a huge issue, I know, with shelters and really adding to the overpopulation crisis and how expensive pets can be. There was a bill that said you can charge a pet deposit or a pet rent, but you can't charge both. But Texas Apartments Association and the realtors come out usually every session and kill this one. There were some spay-neuter incentives that we'll go over that failed. Veterinarians cannot be locally regulated. It passed, but it didn't. There was an ordinance in the city of Austin that said you could no longer declaw cats, but unfortunately that went away with 2127. And then anonymous reporting of dangerous dogs, which we're gonna get to. So let's look and see how Texas, how everybody voted. I think we know this by now, right? Texas isn't red, it's burgundy. GOP occupies 27 of the 27 elected offices. Republicans have control of the House, the state. We are probably one of the most Republican states in the United States. And there on the right, you can see how many Democrats and Republicans we have in the Senate, 11 to 20. And then we have in the House of Representatives, 88 to 62. So we are one of the 23 state legislatures where neither party has veto-proof supermajority. And we won 20 to 11, Republicans won 20 to 11 majority in the Senate and 88 to 62 in the House. So we control the governorship, the lieutenant governorship, and the speaker's office. But I say that and I really want to press this. Animal issues are 100% bipartisan. Doesn't matter if you're a Democrat or a Republican, because animal issues typically bring people together, and there's a lot of bipartisanship behind these. The top picture, that is our governor with Pancake, his dog, and that is the lieutenant governor, and then the speaker at the time was Speaker Bonin. And then in the bottom left-hand corner, this is a great picture. This is Mark Vesey, he's a Democrat, and we've got Roger Williams, who's a Republican, and the picture's cut off, I apologize, but they have a ton of they have 10 dogs surrounding them. But they came together, Democrat and Republican, and they did an adoption day. It was like the National Adoption Day in April of 2017. So again, we still can work together, and really, truly, animals do bring so many of us together. So I bring this up, this is just kind of interesting and a watch this space, because this is adult humane education. Texas is a huge state, we are an ag state, but man, I am very concerned about the bird flu. And I think it's important to look and see what's happened in the past to see where we are. You know, in 2023, 18,000 cattle. Imagine how many that is, 18,000. And it's not only an animal issue, but that is also a human issue. It is a workers' comp issue. It is an insurance issue. It encapsulates so much. And I feel like so many of us aren't keeping our eye on the ball there. So we start with that fire, and then we all know about the Smokehouse Creek fire, which happened most recently. I'm sure we're gonna see some legislation on that. But then also bird flu. Bird flu is back. And in April of 2024, 1.6 million chickens were culled at their Texas facilities. I know that in Galveston, I don't think I have this in there, but in Galveston, it was the first transfer of bird flu. I think 2 Texas veterinarians just were seen with bird flu as well. And you know, this is a time where I think we really need to believe and trust in you know, our science, and make sure we really keep a watch on this, because I think this is only gonna be a bigger issue as we grow. I don't have answers. I'm just here to give you guys kind of the factual background and just make you aware that this is another reason why the eggs are out of control, right? Because we don't have as many. So here are some recent trends for animal laws that we're gonna be talking about. I'm gonna get into all of them right now. I'm gonna play this video. There's no bad pictures or anything. The wife of the deceased is definitely crying and upset, but I think it's important for you guys to watch.
New cars, new trucks, new food.
Sorry.
New
Yes.
2025 North.
Now a San Antonio couple was convicted of a deadly dog attack, and tonight they are headed to prison.
Christian Moreno was handed an 18-year sentence. His wife, Abilene Schneider, was given 15 years. Their punishments come more than 1 year after their dogs attacked and killed an 81-year-old veteran.
So the victim's family, they say that they are satisfied with the sentencing, but say that their fight is far from over. As KENS 5 reporter Hannah Tita tells us, their focus has now shifted to the city of San Antonio.
Through sobs, A heartbroken widow faced the couple convicted of killing her husband through their negligence.
PTSD is now something I will have to deal with the rest of my life. Extreme loneliness and emptiness.
Juanita Naheda and her husband, Ramon Naheda, were attacked by dogs that had broken free from their fence in February of 2023.
This was preventable.
The dog's owners pleaded guilty and went straight to the punishment phase. A district judge sentenced Christian Moreno to 18 years in prison. His wife, Adeline Schneider, was sentenced to 15 years.
They were devastated by the experience as well. Let's not forget that this was not an intentional act.
But the victim's son felt the ruling was fair.
They didn't seem remorseful or sorrowful.
The family's fight isn't over though.
There's somebody that should be sitting right there next to you guys, and it should be the city.
A judge seemingly siding with the family, even though the city was not on trial.
I find the testimony I heard from the city of San Antonio very difficult to believe.
The Najeras have filed a lawsuit against San Antonio. In a statement tonight, a spokesperson for the city attorney's office said, quote, "The responsibility for the actions of pets lies with the pet's owners. The city has not yet been served with the suit."
So this is a good example of, in the state of Texas right now, we really are having issues, not up here, because I just talked to some of the individuals. I think there's 3 or 4 dangerous dog cases, but we really are having a crisis with dangerous dogs. And what's happening is we are not capturing all the dogs, so then the dogs are packing up. They are not being spayed or neutered, which is incredibly problematic, and then they are attacking people. And this is a terrible example of such. So the city of San Antonio now has, there are 3 state representatives that have brought 3 separate bills, and we'll go into those right now. So the one bill that I said last year, the animal bill that was vetoed by Governor Abbott, was Representative Campo's bill. And so it basically adds that offense resulting in bodily injury as a Class B misdemeanor, and serious bodily injury offense would be a 3rd-degree felony, and it would move it if the attack causes death. But also a part of this is that you can have an anonymous report on a dangerous dog. And so from the attorney's standpoint, and we have the State Bar of Texas Animal Law section, their concern is that you have to, like, having anonymous reporting, we're concerned is going to cause a lot of work for our animal control and our law enforcement, because that means, let's say you don't like your neighbor, and believe me, on our hotline, that is like a lot of calls. They're very upset with their neighbor, barking dog, whatever. But then you can go ahead and report them for a dangerous dog citation. And we just don't think that that's a good use of time. So this was vetoed, but it has been brought back this session. And the Senator Menendez from San Antonio, went ahead and did a press conference, so he's all in on this. But then also, Representative Lujan on Friday just brought a bill, and it's relating to an attack by a dangerous dog, increasing the criminal penalties and creating a criminal offense. And this also says essentially you can't own a dog for many years if your dog attacks someone as well. So, you know, we're trying to look at these laws and say, is Texas a one-size-fits-all? Absolutely not. So, you know, a lot of these jurisdictions, we have a good state law, but maybe some of these areas can do their own ordinances and fix it if they have problems there. Last but not least, there was an establishment of a statewide dangerous dog registry. This bill was brought. Now, this somewhat makes more sense. If you have a person that has a dog deemed dangerous in your own vicinity and they move somewhere else, would you like to know about it? Especially if they move next door and you have kids? Probably. So this actually might have some legs, but time will tell. A lot of people say that, you know, sometimes registries don't work. And so we'll see if that one has any legs to stand on. There is a, excuse me, dog fighting and cockfighting bill that was brought by Representative Rafael Anchia. He's a Democrat from Dallas. And we're basically lifting up the dog fighting penalty just 1 smidgen of an inch but we are definitely changing up the cockfighting statute. So Texas is number 7 in the United States for one of the strongest dangerous dog laws. Thank you to the previous leadership of THLN, and we're really proud of it. But dog fighters are getting smarter. They go more into the East Texas piney woods, or they go into very difficult places where it's hard to find them. But in terms of cockfighting is pretty out there, and it's happening more and more often. In April of 2023, this is unbelievable, DPD goes to a house and there was a suspected shooting. So they show up and there were 2 guys there and one of them had been shot. They found 3,000 roosters in one house, like one single lot. None of the neighbors ever complained, I think because there was cartel activity. Then all of those roosters went to the city of Dallas because they were evidence and they had to maintain them. And then, so 3,000, so imagine trying to care for 400 dogs that you're trying to get adopted, 30 cats at the time, and then 3,000 roosters. Unfortunately, what happens a lot with cockfighting is the roosters get some sort of H1 bird epizootic disease, and then they all have to be culled. So they cared for them for 2 weeks, and then they had to euthanize all of them. But that's typically what happens. You can't really turn around roosters. There are some sanctuaries that take them. But really the whole point about caring, like why do we care about cockfighting? There is so much cartel activity, it's unbelievable. Talk about human trafficking. Talk about dog fighting and cockfighting on the same property. Talk about prostitution, outstanding warrants. They are all found at these locations, and we want, this really is coming from the rural sheriffs. So the Texas Sheriff's Association will hopefully lead on this bill, but it's them because they don't have the resources to try to remove, imagine that, 3,000 birds, right? So that's something that we're definitely supporting. I'll tell you something else, we're supporting it behind the scenes really because sometimes if you get involved with an animal bill, it's labeled controversial, and there should be nothing controversial about cockfighting or dogfighting. It's long-standing that blood sport is something that is really universally hated, quite frankly, and we want to support our law enforcement. So spay-neuter funding is something that I think we all could agree that we need more of, right? We helped pass the animal-friendly license plate in the top left-hand corner, right. And we passed this in 1997, and since then, over $8 million in spay-neuter funding has gone to sterilize thousands of dogs and cats, which is great. But as you see our license plate, it's a cartoon, and then it says animal-friendly. What does animal-friendly mean? I mean, do you guys know? I don't. I mean, I do and I don't, right? So underneath we have Washington, how it says spay, neuter, adopt. We've got the California plate that says spay, neuter, save lives. So we just want to update this license plate this session, but also we really need to fix the way the application process is done. Has anyone in here applied for spay, neuter funding? Nobody? Okay. Well, it's there, again, so maybe this is an education issue that is out there. Again, around 200,000 is coming in. It used to be a lot more, but at the end of the day, it's a 65-page application. Miranda Lambert, she is Mutt Nation, she is spay neuter funding. Her application is 2 pages. And it's just way too much. It's a reimbursement program, so that means that you have to put it on your own credit card and then they reimburse you 3 months later. Another problem, we talked to a very small rescue out of East Texas, and she said that they would not reimburse her $90 for the more gauze pads that the veterinarian asked for. This is way too prescriptive. We need to be spay and neuter them all, right? We need to spay and neuter everything, because that's why we're in the problem that we're in. So at the end of the day, we hope to really clean up this program and get it moving. There is no bill number on this one, and I apologize. On this one, it is $795, and what I can do after this is I'm happy to get to Lisa or any of them some of these other bill numbers. It's just they're happening so quickly, right? So the vet shortage. So the Hines decision has opened up I know it's already getting close and I'll try to wrap up quickly, but these are some of the more important ones. So the Hines decision happened this summer. It is a Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals case, and it basically said that vet telemedicine can happen in the state of Texas. So right now, we have telemedicine, but you have to have a first in-person visit. And so we're trying to remove that in-person visit. This is a veterinarian, Mr. Hines, and he is disabled, and he was giving advice to people throughout the state. And so the State Veterinarian Association, it was either TVMA or AVMA, they sued him and said, you're practicing telemedicine and that's not allowed in Texas. So Fifth Circuit, they are not known to be the bastion of liberal ideas, came out and said, yes, you absolutely can do telemedicine in Texas. So there's a couple of bills that are going to deal with the vet shortage. There will be a telemedicine coming, hopefully as early next week. We understand that TVMA is opposing this bill. We're not sure. We're trying to understand why, because like the Ohio VMA is neutral, because they have a lot of vets that want to practice telemedicine, and they have some vets that don't want to practice it. That's fine, but don't stop that from letting others practice it. Because we all need, I can't see my vet for 4 weeks. And I don't know about you guys, but imagine being in an incredibly rural area. Again, 50 counties do not have veterinarians. Also, you know, the Rural Vet Incentive Program is coming back, but in 2023, this bill is back this session too. It hasn't been filed, but she will be filing it, where it says a shelter veterinarian can work on an owned vet. Texas is only one of 2 states that does not allow this. So you go to Dallas Animal Services and you say, my cat needs surgery, it's $3,200, I can't afford it, I have to give the pet back. Now what they have to do is they take the pet back, they perform the surgery, and then they have to re-adopt the cat out. And there are some that are concerned about their license even doing that, because under the occupations code, that could be seen as problematic. So let's just clean this up and let's get these animals, you know, fixed. Okay.
Deputy Charles, I work here at the Sheriff's Office. I took on the role as an animal education director, and I started doing an initiative, roadside vendor initiatives to stop, prevent, or reduce the opportunity of these backyard breeders. Everyone's familiar with Trader Village and also South Ridge High School. This is where the backyard breeders have been setting up shop for a very long time now. We made sure that they were not able to jet off when we arrived. Once everyone was in the same position, we actually went out there and started doing people citation, also educating them on why this is what we're doing. Every initiative that we're going to do from here on, we're going to have animal control officer. Animal control are experts for the most part with identifying animals, breed, male, female. I decided to team up with South Ridge ISD. We actually got with Harrison Sheriff's Office as well, and also Animal Control officers. And we made sure we post this on social media so it helps spread the word.
So we have a huge problem with roadside sales in Texas, and why would anybody be against roadside sales? Well, usually it's an impulse purchase, but also there's no guarantee that those animals have at all been vaccinated. And I'm sure Mark or some others can tell you, sometimes on Monday or Tuesday they realize they didn't really want a puppy because they're a lot of work, and then they end up back at the shelter. So a lot of cities have ordinances say you can't sell in a Walmart parking lot, you can't sell on the side of the road. Well, now these 2 state representatives have come together and they've both filed bills saying no more roadside sales, which is unbelievable, because if you knew Cecil Bell, he's from Magnolia, Texas, he couldn't be more Republican. If you knew Sergio Munoz, he couldn't be more Democratic. But they've come together and said, let's try to fix this. Because in Harris County, which you just saw, like, they actually have to have stings, because they'll have 5 or 6 people come together and they're all selling puppies, and so they have to go in and fix it. But in Harris County, it is illegal to have roadside sales, but Montgomery County, it's not. So just a street over, they line up the Walmart parking lot. So I think this bill definitely, those bills will have some wings. Okay, there's a bill that says you can no longer do balloon releases. So I included that because I think that is, it's coming from a Galveston area state representative. I think that is going to maybe get some wings, although I know the balloon enthusiasts might be very frustrated with that, but it's actually really a very good bill if you look at the science behind it. There's also, like I said, the declaw bill, House Bill 2653, that says you can no longer perform the procedure of a declawing. Now, I think TVMA is going to come out against this because veterinarians apparently declaw cats by using a machine. It's incredibly expensive and they want to continue to use it. That is what I've been told. So we'll see what happens with that. There is a bill relating to 1614. Oh, this is the one that I talked about that would allow veterinarians to work on owned animals in shelters. And then also there's a bill that says if a dog or cat was in a medical research facility, all it says is that they are allowed to be adopted out. This is a great bill. I don't know why, but the research facilities and the universities come out and kill this every time, and I just think it's a pretty good bill. Rural shelter funding, we might see some bills. So in terms of why do we have this overpopulation crisis, dogs don't know when they go from Frisco to the Colony or Frisco to McKinney, right? They don't understand boundaries. And so a lot of these counties have these populations that are being driven up, but there's no shelter and there's nowhere to take the dogs. So I'm going, for example, this week to Liberty County, and it is probably one of the hardest hit. They have 108,000 citizens and they basically have 2 kennel runs. And I'm sure you've seen, I mean, the dog bites down there are unbelievable. I think Harris, Houston, in the last couple of years have had 5 fatalities. And, you know, this is a public health crisis, right? And we need to remind our elected officials, especially locally, that we definitely need animal shelters because at the end of the day, well, first of all, like if we could build an animal shelter like this library, God, I'd come work here. But at the end of the day, it's so important to realize that it's really for public health purposes, whether it's rabies, whether it's dog bites, because when you talk to these ACOs and these LEOs in these counties, they have nowhere to bring the dogs. So in Liberty County there, the police officers are telling them to shoot the dogs because that's how bad it's gotten. And this is Texas. This is the United States. We shouldn't have that problem. So finally, I'm excited because they're listening and they're coming together. Again, we talked a little bit about this, that there's no repercussions if a boarder or a groomer, if your dog dies in their possession, custody, or control. So we're going to see there's a bill on that to make criminal negligence in those areas. And then I'll talk briefly about ethical pet sales. So this is a bill that Representative Patterson brought in 2021 and 2023. And this basically says we can no longer sell puppies in pet stores. Now, what this doesn't do, so let's talk about the facts. The facts are as follows. You can go to your local breed clubs. If you want a Schnitzer Doodle Poodle, you can go to your local breed club and you can find that dog. We are not saying that you have to go to a shelter, although I'm sure everybody in here can tell you about all the puppies that are in there, that 27% of puppies are purebred in our shelters now, because that's how overcrowded we are. But we're just saying you can't sell them in stores anymore. We know that 13,000 puppies came into Texas approximately every year, and they're unaltered. And so again, that just goes back to kind of this issue of overpopulation. And at the end of the day, all of us in here, whatever background you come from, I am trying to help, so I go ahead and foster for a group, and these dogs go up to Syracuse, New York. The parents still stay in touch with us. They give us pictures of the animals. But why are we killing ourselves transporting thousands of rescue dogs, thousands on a daily basis from Texas, when 13,000 puppies are being shipped into the state? It just doesn't make good business sense. Again, the person in this room that is really an expert on that is Pam. Pam, raise your hand. Where are you? So if you have any questions, talk to her about it. She's very, very passionate about this. This is a picture of a dog that was in a pet store in Central Texas. And because TDLR updated its breeder rules, now we have a lot more breeders coming into the program, so there's a lot more breeders that are willing to sell you a dog. Everyone says, who opposes this? One of the big opposition is AKC. AKC, in my opinion, talks a little bit out of both sides of their mouth for the following reasons. They say if you are to go ahead and find a responsible breeder, you need to meet the parents. So that means, you know, you go to their house, you see the two parents of the puppy that you're getting. But they oppose this bill, but they also say that is the way to do it, and you can't do that in a pet store. They also talk about the local breeder club ethics clauses that they have, and so the local breed clubs will not sell to pet stores either, but yet the AKC supports their local breed clubs, so it's a bit confusing. But again, if you guys are all interested in this bill, this is coming very, very soon. I do want to bring this up. This is Petland in Houston. So after the ordinance passed, they continued to sell puppies for, I believe, 8 months. And they had 113 citations and $35,000 in fines, but they finally stopped selling puppies. But again, even after our ordinance passed, it still was there. So who represents you? Okay, here are the representatives over Frisco. We've got Richard Hayes, Carissa Anderson. Richard, I think this is his second session. Representative Anderson, this is her first. Matt Shaheen, I think it's been there since 2011. And then Jared Patterson, who we've already talked about. And then your senators are Senator Paxton and then Senator Hagenbu. Senator Hagenbu is new, brand new this year, and Angela's been there, I think, 3 sessions. And again, like I said, Matt Shaheen went ahead and passed the possession ban. And then there's a picture of Jared Patterson in the bottom right-hand corner with a bunch of people that came down to testify on one of the bills that he filed. So you might not have anything in common with your state rep except animals and the way they vote on bills. So even though you might think, well, I'm not gonna make a difference, what does one phone call mean? What does an email mean? It actually means a lot. They did, now again, this was pre-2016 election, but they did a study and it showed that 3% of citizens get involved. 3%. And so if you volunteer more than 20 hours a week at your local shelter, if you are like me trying to take dogs from down here and ship them up north to have a great home, if you work in a shelter, I'm a veterinarian, if you work in a clinic, they need to hear from you because you are the experts in this field. If you work in animal control or you're in law enforcement, they want to hear from you as well. So how do you guys get involved in any kind of legislative advocacy for animals? Sign up for our action alerts, but also there are, excuse me, national animal welfare groups, that can also keep you informed, but obviously sign up for ours. Go to Who Represents You. If you literally Google Who Represents You, it comes up, you all have 1 state representative and 1 state senator, and you can follow them on social media. You can call them on Monday and say, hey, I went to a meeting this weekend and I learned that you passed this bill. Thank you so much. I cannot tell you, if we have any elected officials here, how much really hate they get. And it is a thankless job. It truly is. So when you call and thank them, it's really noted in the office, because I've been in there once when someone's like, oh my gosh, this person called and thanked us. It doesn't happen often. But again, get involved. If you work in a shelter, please invite your state representative or senator to your shelter. If you can, name a really cute dog or cat after them. They will absolutely love it. Put it in their arm and put it on Facebook and say, hey, this is Brent, and Brent needs to get adopted. He's a senator, whoever. I mean, it really does work, and they will remember that. Also, if you are with animal control, ask them to do a ride-along. If you have a huge problem with loose dogs in your area or certain neighborhoods, the best thing you can do is ask one of the staffers, because maybe the state representative or senator can't, they don't have the time. But I'm telling you, I bet a district director would come with you and do a ride along and see, because everybody loves dogs and cats, right? We have Lobby Day, March 25th, it's in Austin, Texas. If you come down, you get to meet with your staff, their staffers, and possibly and hopefully the representative and the senator themselves. And then I always put this in here, it's not in here, and as you can see, my numbers are totally off, so I apologize. I had some technical difficulties, as Lisa and Lieutenant Crawford know, but foster, rescue, adopt. Foster, rescue, adopt, foster, rescue, adopt. I cannot say it enough. If you want a Schnitzer Doodle Poodle that is black and white and has a blue eye, I will find it for you. There's just a dog out there for everybody, especially right now. And donate locally, please donate locally, because you can see really the great things that happen as a result. Okay, sorry, we're almost there. Please thank your shelter managers and animal control officers. I cannot stress this enough. Please thank them. Their jobs right now are incredibly difficult. Look at all the things that they have to do. And, you know, I find that if you are an advocate, the best thing you can do is thank them because of all the things that they're doing. In the state of Texas, animal control officers are not seen as first responders. And I think a bill at some point in the future will probably change that because they're there for hurricanes, they're there for storms, tornadoes. They are there when it's freezing. I'll never forget, I was at home with a beautiful cup of coffee and I was watching the Dallas animal control officer almost kill herself on the ice trying to rescue a dog, right? So I just always ask people to be kind and really ask them what they need. Can we get them pizza? Can we get them donuts? Can we just appreciate them on Facebook? However we can help them. Again, here is a save the date for Humane Lobby Day, and we hope to see you there. Really quick, this is Frankie. She is a puggle. She was bought at a Tyler pet store for $6,000. And 3 weeks later, she was dumped at the Athens Animal Shelter. And so I know the Athens Animal Shelter manager, she's unbelievable. And she said, I have a puggle in my shelter. I said, you can't, they're so cute. They're getting adopted, you know, like, she's like, nobody will adopt this dog. So we grabbed her, thank God for my husband. He basically turned this feral dog into, he was like Pygmalion. And she was 80% potty trained. But I mean, she was jumping on our table, she was awful. And then there she is in New York with her new family. So again, please, you know, this is a good example of why the ethical pet sales bill is needed. Okay, I'm happy to answer any quick questions. Again, there's several of us in the room that can help. And I'm so sorry I kept you guys. It's already fine, I apologize. But anyways, a couple of questions, yes.
Are there any bills related to the cosmetic cropping of pit bull ears or any dog's ears?
No. I will tell you, like that would be a perfect bill in California or Massachusetts, but in Texas, a bill like that, because there's such a need for some of these other bills, I don't see that happening anytime soon. I also think of like just opposition off the top of my head, and I think maybe certain groups would probably come against that. ADBA, American Dog Breeders Association, some of the others. But that's a great question. But I think because Texas is so, I don't want to say behind, but more challenged in a bill like that, as you saw, 3 out of 4 bills fail. And even some of the best, most intentioned bills just run out of time. We have 6 months to pass 9,000 bills. So I just don't see that happening anytime soon. That could be something locally, but it might run into constitutional issues, I'm not sure. But Randy could probably talk to you about that more. Good question, yes.
2 super quick questions. So most people in here know Frisco doesn't have an animal shelter. Are there any, and there's no timeline, but there will be one. So are there any laws at the state level that could possibly require municipalities to have a speed run shelter if they're over a certain population size? And then second question, Frisco does have an ordinance written that they can regulate pet land because of the bill you mentioned. Does that mean Frisco can no longer regulate the pet store that is here?
All those are great questions. Let me start with the first one. There is a state law that says if you have 75,000 people or more in your county, is this right, Randy, you'll correct me, that you have to at least have a shelter commission, and then it tells you who should be on it, it's like a veterinarian, but it doesn't say that you have to have a shelter. So I know that a lot of cities contract with other places, and I think it's just good every 2 years or so to look at that and see if that is working. Because I just came from East Texas. Mount Pleasant has a beautiful new animal shelter, but a couple of the cities that they contract with, they're 45 minutes away. So at some point, that's not really gonna work anymore. And again, you just need to look at what works for your city. That's, you know, TACA, Texas Animal Control, it's all about what is locally working for you. So there's no law that says you have to have a shelter at 75,000, but I say as good common law and common practice, every 2 years you should be looking, does this make sense? How much money are we spending? Could we actually do more here? Good question. And then no on the second one, because if you had a law relating to pet stores, whether you're regulating them or you're outlawing them, those stayed in effect. It was everything after April 2023. So McKinney, there's been 5 new pet stores that have popped up. They can do nothing about that because of 2127, which a lot of the lawmakers say, well, now it's time to decide once and for all to go ahead and end those puppies coming in. Great question. Yes.
Hi, first of all, thank you for this meeting. I think it's so needed. I'm the mother of 5 rescue dogs. What is being done about, you know, we hear about the dogs being sold in parking lots and flea markets. But right before I came to this meeting, there was 8 people on TikTok from North Texas selling puppies, as much as $3,000 to $6,000 each. Is there anything that can be done to focus on those people? Anybody go on TikTok right now, you're gonna see them selling dogs. You can see their apartments or bedrooms. Is there anything that can be done to focus on that?
Yeah, it's a great question. That involves federal law and what you can and can't sell because of a law that, well, it's the dormant part of the Commerce Clause that like says like the state of Texas cannot outlaw certain things that are regulated by interstate commerce, and because they're being sold on TikTok, we can't help there. So what the studies do show is if you eliminate the roadside sales, because again, if you talk to shelter managers, they end up there and a lot of the times they're not vaccinated. But also, if you eliminate those 13,000 puppies coming in and you work on local breeders that know what they're doing, maybe some of those are licensed breeders. Maybe they actually are licensed and selling dogs. I know you're not, I get it, but
I did my research.
I know, I bet you did. But so then we have to educate. That's why this is so important today, to say, Mark can probably tell you, I've got 5 puppies at my shelter, or someone, you know, these shelters really need to do as much as they can, and they already are with Citizens Help, of telling them about the puppies that they have as well. But that is a federal law. To help you understand a little bit better, breeders are regulated under the USDA, but it's such lax breeding rules and requirements. For example, starting in 2016, they stopped citing large-scale breeding facilities and just said these are teachable moments. So even though maybe there was a puppy, 5 puppies that died, maybe there was something, we still weren't even licensing, we still weren't finding them. We were just saying, oh, this is a teachable moment, do better. I don't know, Randy, Pam, do you have anything else to say to that? What do we do about the people selling animals on TikTok? In Texas. Yeah, there's nothing, yes.
Some of the social media platforms, you can actually report the post. Like for Facebook, for example, it is actually illegal to be selling animals. So you can report the post and they will take it down. I don't know TikTok's rules, I'm not on TikTok, but it would be up to the social media platform, but that's one of the ways that you can help with that immediately.
No, they don't do
Excellent point.
Yeah, not always on TikTok. They even have, on TikTok, they even have a code guide. Where they won't say money, they'll say, you mean berries, right? Or mushrooms. They won't say dollar also. And
So here's an idea. We need to get junior advocates out there saying, stop shopping and adopt. And we've got these animals. It's the counter education that we've got to put forward. But legally, we can't do anything. But I want someone to correct me if I'm wrong, but I know interstate commerce, it really needs to be handled federally. So, thank you. Yes?
You're correct on the interstate commerce. TikTok does have a little go against animals being sold. And you can report it. You go to the top 3 buttons and hit the top 3 dots. When you do, there's a place to put notes. Put that they are using the terms berries and stuff to represent money. TikTok will look at that and they can, we have had that happen.
Okay, thank you. Reporter to TikTok, great. Yes?
For the puppy mills, why is there that, I guess, demand for importing dogs when there's such an overbreeding and lax breeding laws here in Texas?
Okay, can you answer that? Can you say that again? Because it's a really good question.
It was a kind of a two-part question.
Sure.
One, why are they importing dogs externally when there's such an overpopulation of dogs in Texas and such lax breeding laws in Texas?
So we do have we have the Dog and Cat License Breeder Act. So if you have 5 or more breeding females, you have to go ahead and you have to get licensed.
Yeah.
So that means somebody comes into your place. Now, THLN is a statewide agency. They have a lot of reports, but they're still doing a good job. I mean, I've seen their numbers, and 100+ breeders have come into the program now that we've strengthened it, okay? So that's gonna take some time to right size. But if you're going to evade the law, you're always gonna evade the law. But they do take, like, if you know a breeder that has 5 or more breeding females and that person is not licensed, you should definitely report them. So that's that number. In terms of the number of puppies being sold, why do we have that?
Or I guess for puppy mills, like specifically Petland, all of those, why are they importing dogs from out of state?
You'd have to ask them, but I do know that it's buying them in bulk and bringing them down here. So this is a good question for the following reason. A lot of people say, well, I get my dogs from licensed breeders. And what I was trying to explain, like, if it's licensed through the USDA, because we know exactly where they get their dogs, because it's called a certificate of veterinary inspection. So when they are brought into the state, we know exactly where these dogs are coming from. And so we know if those places have fines, how many dogs they have, and all of that. But if you can buy in bulk and then send them down and ship them down in these cargo vans, that's what they're doing. Versus, like, and it just goes back to the fact that we don't think dogs should be sold in pet stores anymore. Like, we're past the times of how cute, how much is that puppy in the window, right? I mean, Mark can tell you, these are high school kids sometimes that don't have vet tech experience, but yet, you know, they could be giving them antibiotics and so forth. So my point is, there is a need in wanting a certain breed, and what we're saying now is go to your local breeder and your local breed club here. If you want a dachshund, you can go to the North Texas Dachshund Society, and they have 22 breeders, and you can go find a dog that way. It's about education, and it's a lot about impulse purchase. When somebody puts a puppy in your lap, and you're like, oh my gosh, you talk to some of these people, they never wanted to pay $7,000 for a puppy, but they just fell in love with it. And then they found out they had a contract and interest and all this other stuff. So it goes back to education on if you want to buy a dog, where to get the dog from. We specifically say this law will not at all affect like if you want to go buy a dog. It's just going to your local breed clubs and trying to find a dog that way. Does that help? Pam, what am I missing?
Well, I'll just say Missouri is one of the worst states in the nation for puppy mills, and they have they're lacking laws in the state of Missouri to crack down on these bad breeders. And so some may say that some of the pet shops, you know, are probably getting good deals and mass quantities on these puppies, and there's obviously good economic benefit of bringing them in mass quantities and then selling them for, you know, a huge profit at these pet shops. And so we've done a great job of cracking down on the puppy mills in Texas. And so my hypothesis, I don't have proof of this, but is that, you know, there's fewer animals coming out of puppy mills in Texas than they're coming out of